Now for our program, Senior Vice President, Business Development and Marketing from Strang Architecture, Engineering, and Interior Design, Matt Matson, will introduce our speaker. Matt?
Well, thank you, President Karen, and good afternoon, fellow Rotarians. If you've been in Wisconsin a day or two, probably you've undoubtedly visited a Kwik trip. And it certainly is an iconic Wisconsin brand. I've had the pleasure of hearing our guest speaker, John McHugh, speak on a couple of different occasions, and I can assure you, you're in for a treat today. John is the Director of Corporate Communications, Leadership Development, and Training for Kwik Trip, and I thought I had a long title. He's based in La Crosse, Wisconsin, and his role at Kwik Trip, he's helped the company achieve recognition as a top workplace listed by the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, the Minneapolis Star Tribune, and the Des Moines Register. Prior to joining Kwik Trip in 2004, John was an instructor and principal at Aquinas High School in La Crosse, and he holds degrees from the University of St. Thomas in St. Paul, Minnesota, and the Gregorian University in Rome, Italy. And he did tell me that he does speak Italian. So John sits on the board of Trust Point Better Life Insurance and the Turbo University. He and his wife Maggie enjoy living in their log home near Sparta, Wisconsin. So join me in welcoming John to address creating a mission-driven culture with compassion and trust that turns satisfied customers into loyal customers. John?
We have one of our store leaders some time ago was out at the pumps changing out the garbage bags when one of our elderly guests pulled up. Internally, we don't refer to people as customers. We call them guests. It was an elderly gentleman. Saw that she worked at Kwik Trip because she had the blue uniform on. And he said, hey, I see you work here. How do I put gas in my car? And as soon as he asked that, she thought that maybe he was having some memory issues because he was an elderly gentleman. And she said, it's a pretty simple process. Let me help you. They dispensed about 10 gallons of fuel. When they were done, she was just about to walk away, and he said, no, hang on before you go. How do I know if I need oil in my engine? She said, well, it's a pretty simple process as well. Let me show you. So she went to the driver's side and popped open the hood, and they went to the front of the car, and she said, so we're going to put this rod in place so that the hood doesn't come back and hit you on the noggin. And I know this might look pretty confusing. There are a lot of parts. We're going to look for a part. They have a funny term for it. They call it a dipstick. So she grabbed some paper towel from the dispenser and wiped off the dipstick and said, sir, can you see the little line that's etched in this metal stick? He bent his glasses over and he said, yeah, I can see that line. Well, we're going to put the stick back in and the black smudge has to come up to that line. They checked his oil. It was perfect. She said, sir, now next to when you did this on your own, if the smudge is below the line, that means you need oil. You come into the store and one of our coworkers will find out what kind of oil you need and where it goes inside here. But today it looks like you're good to go. He said, no, third question. How do I know if I need air in my tires? She said, well, that's pretty simple as well. Why don't you pull over to the side of the lot? There's a little box called an air compressor, and I'll show you how to use that. So he pulled his car over, and again, she opened up the driver's side door and said, sir, there's a white tag here. It's got a lot of numbers on it, but we're going to look for a number right before an abbreviation, PSI. And that means pounds per square inch. And that's the number that we're going to tap into this little machine called an air compressor. They checked all 4 tires. They were perfectly fine. And he stood up. He said, ma'am, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I know how to pump my own gas. I've always pumped my own gas. Secondly, I don't even take my car to a mechanic to have the oil changed. I change my own oil. I know how to check my oil. He said, thirdly, I've never had a tire go down because of a lack of air pressure. I know how to check the air in my tires. But he said, I came here today to Kwik Trip to see if what they say about you is true. I heard that you take care of people. He said, I'm glad to know that it's true, that you do take care of people. I found out this week that I have terminal cancer. In 3 months, I won't be here. My wife and I have been married 53 years, and she's never had to pump gas. She has no clue how to check the oil in her engine. She's never had to check the air in her tires. And I want to make sure that there's some place where she can come after I'm gone, that they'll take care of her. He said, I'm glad to know what they say about you is true, that you take care of people. He has since passed away, and she shows up at our store every week, and our coworkers pump the gas for her. And those of you who are guests know that we are not a full-service gas station. They check the oil in her engine, and to give her a peace of mind, a reminder of how well her husband used to take care of her, they check all 4 tires for air. And when Deanna, our store leader, told me this story, I said, Deanna, why'd you do it? She said, John, you know exactly why I did it. It's our mission here at Kwik Trip. Our mission at Kwik Trip, believe it or not, is not to sell gasoline and hot dogs. Our mission is to treat others as you like to be treated. Golden rule applied to business. We follow, for those of you who study business, Jim Collins, Good to Great, Built to Last. And he talks about what makes businesses 16 times more profitable than the stock market average. Now, as I read this, keep in mind that this guy's hardcore business. He's not a philosopher. He doesn't teach religion. He's not a poet. But he said, if you want an engaged workforce, successful workforce, make sure all your employees can plug into this. For in the end, it's impossible to have a great life unless it's a meaningful life. It's very difficult to have meaningful life without meaningful work. Perhaps then you might gain that rare tranquility that comes from knowing that you've had a hand in creating something of intrinsic excellence that makes a contribution. Indeed, you might even gain the deepest of all satisfactions, knowing that your short time here on this earth has been well spent and that it mattered. That's a business author saying if you want a successful organization, make sure all your employees can plug into a sense of purpose. That what they do is more important than just selling stuff to people or making a profit. It's got to be deeper than that for pure joy in the workplace. So in that mind, I'm going to share one non-Kwik Trip story. Many of you know I go out throughout the state, our tri-state market, talking about purpose and compassion. So about 5 years ago, I was up in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, talking to the management team of Mercury Marine about purpose at work. It's their senior management team, about, I'd say 200 people in the room. And as I'm doing this presentation on purpose, their lead engineer was in the back corner of the room. A big, tough-looking guy, I'd say late 50s, balding. Looked like the kind of guy, if this was closing time at the bar scene, you wouldn't mess with this guy because you'd lose, you know? And I could tell by his body language, he's not buying what I'm selling. And so at the end of the presentation, I said, well, any questions, comments, concerns? From the back corner of the room, he raises his hand in front of the whole crowd. He points to my slides and he says, this is a load of fill in the blank. He said, there's no purpose in what I do. I design and build boat motors. There's no purpose in that. And he launched off on me for about 5 minutes. No purpose in his work. When he was done, I said, sir, can I tell you a story? First 7 years of my family's life, we lived down here. We lived in South Milwaukee on Rawson Avenue. My dad was a construction worker. He's now gone well over 10 years. My dad never graduated high school. My dad made Jeff Foxworthy look like a cultured genius, okay? My dad used the F word as a noun, adjective, adverb, comma, preposition, kind of. Smoked 3 packs of cigarettes a day. The longest I ever saw him go without a cigarette was 17 seconds, because I timed him once. He ate the fat off the pork chop, because he'd say, Johnny, that's where all the flavor's at. And most of the liquid that he consumed was fermented in nature. Okay, are you getting the picture of John Sr.? He had a belly by beer. He had an Irish temper. So if things hadn't gone well on the job site that day working construction, we knew about it when Dad got home. You know the old adage, if something doesn't go well at work, you leave it at work, you don't bring it home with you? Not true in the McHugh household. If it hadn't gone well on the job site, as soon as Dad walked through that door in the evening, we knew it was going to be a long night. He had an Irish temper. But his attitude changed completely at the beginning of every summer. And this is how it happened and when it happened. My dad would get home at 5 o'clock on Friday, a Memorial Day weekend, and he would back our 1973 Dodge Charger up to that boat. It's got a Mercury Marine in the back. And then we would drive 5 hours north up to northern Wisconsin, north of Mercer, a place called Pine Lake. Take 5 hours to get there, going up old Highway 51, when Highway 51 was still 2 lanes going through Wausau and Maryland. Some of you remember those days. We'd get to the lake about 11:30 at night. I was 4 years old at the time. Dad would put me in the boat, put the boat in the water, drive out to the middle of the lake. He'd turn the boat motor off, put the anchor down, and then he'd put my life jacket on nice and tight. And then he'd put me in his arms and go, "Head of 1, head of 2, head of 3," and he'd throw me in the lake. And for the next half hour, we'd go swimming till about midnight. Then midnight, we'd get back in the boat and go back to the cottage. And for the next 2.5 days, my dad's attitude completely changed. He was fun to be with. He was relaxed. And not like he was my dad, but the ideal older brother you always wanted to have. And then on Monday at noon, Memorial Day, Dad would put the boat back on the trailer. And we would travel 5 hours south back here to Milwaukee. You all know, it's your area. You know, if you're coming from northern Wisconsin to Milwaukee, you go on Highway 41 right through Fond du Lac, right past the Mercury Marine plant. And every time we passed that plant, my dad would say to me as I was in the back seat of the Charger, only 4 years old, "Johnny, look out the window. You see that big building? That's the home of the boat motor." And I remember being a 4-year-old boy in the back seat of that car looking at that building, being so grateful that it existed. Because inside that building, they built something that changed my dad. And I said, "Sir, my dad's been gone many years now. The best memories I have of my dad are because of that boat." I don't know if you were working here at Mercury Marine at the time, but if you were, I want to thank you for building something that changed my father. Best memories I have are my dad because of that boat. And Big Tough Engineer, and there's tears streaming down his cheeks. And he walked out of the room that day and he said, "Hey, thanks for teaching me that my job has a purpose. I thought I designed and built boat motors. I realize now I bring joy to people's lives. And there's a difference." The one thing that we hammer home at Kwik Trip with our 36,000 employees is that sense of purpose. That what they're called to do today is not sell gasoline and hot dogs, but to treat others as they would like to be treated, to make a difference in someone's life. And we believe that when we really work on that purpose every single day, that makes the difference. We celebrate it, we reward it. I'm proud to say that this last year, unsolicited, we received 2,566 unsolicited guest compliment letters written into the corporate office. 2,566 people said, I got to tell you what happened in the Kwik Trip store. It was so profound. I have to write to you about it. And as you well know, you may have a great experience at retail, but rarely do you take time to write about it. We publish all those stories every Wednesday. They get sent out to our store. And sometimes if you come into a Kwik Trip store and you see our coworkers reading a newsletter and they're crying, it's because sometimes there's not a dry eye in the store of the beautiful ways in which our 36,000 coworkers take care of others. And we believe that translates into customer loyalty. We don't aim for customer satisfaction at Kwik Trip. We think that's a disaster. And here's the reason why. This is a national statistic. 65 to 85% of all customers who describe themselves as satisfied shortly thereafter jump to the competition. Because this is what it means if you're satisfied. Price point was fine. You didn't get gouged. The food was okay. You didn't puke after you ate it. We didn't yell at you when you were in the store. You're satisfied. The problem is that some other company comes along and doesn't simply satisfy you, they wow you. And then you go from the place where you're satisfied to the place where you're wowed. Now, internally at Kwik Trip, we believe that loyalty is not created through price point. Even though on all your basic commodities, we will beat Walmart by 10%. And I'll talk about how we do that. We believe loyalty is not created based off the best locations. And we hear it all the time. People say, I drive past 3 other gas stations to get to a Kwik Trip. So it's not based off a location. We believe loyalty is created through compassionate relationships. That's what generates loyalty. Let me give you 2 Kwik Trip examples. Many of you know 80% of all the products inside a Kwik Trip store we actually make or produce ourselves out of our home area in La Crosse, Wisconsin. We have a 140-acre campus. We have our own dairy, commissary, ice plant, beverage line. Again, you name it, we try to make it. And our goal is to be fresher than any place else. So, for example, the milk comes from all the farms right around La Crosse. Starts coming into our dairy at 5:30 in the morning. The last truck is left by 8:30 in the morning. We make our own milk jugs right there on campus. We have our own blow mold facility. So the milk jug is made, the milk goes in, although right before the milk is made, the cream is taken off the top, and that's what goes into our ice cream. And that's why our ice cream is so phenomenal, because the fat content is so high. Cap goes on the milk jug, it goes out to the store. And so it's 5 o'clock, you're finishing up work, you go, I got to stop at Kwik Trip, get a gallon of milk tonight. And there's a good chance that when you pick that milk off the shelf, that milk was in the belly of the cow at 4:30 this morning. Our goal is from the farm to you in less than 24 hours. Now, we don't publicize this, but it means our milk will actually last for 2 weeks past the expiration date because it's so fresh. I mean, the only place you're getting it fresher is if you're living on the farm, you're getting out of the bulk tank. So our products are delivered fresh to our store every single day, all 820 stores. Our guests in La Crosse know that's our model. We pride ourselves on freshness. Well, one day we had one of our guests come into the store with a half gallon of 2% milk. She found the store leader. She said, you at Kwik Trip, you pride yourselves on fresh milk? This is disgusting. This is bad milk. Smell this. So the store leader took the cap off and smelled it, and it was bad. No, I don't know why you just wouldn't take your word for it. Why do you have to put your nose? And if that's fine. She said, ma'am, I apologize. That is bad milk. Why don't you go back to the dairy cooler and get 2 half gallons? They're on us today. Well, the guest went back to the milk cooler. The store leader rang up for her a $10 gift card. So the guest came back up to the counter and put the 2 half gallons down, and the store leader apologized again and said, ma'am, that was bad milk. Those 2 half gallons, that's on us today. Here's a $10 gift card for your troubles. I'm so sorry. Well, the guest went from dissatisfied, past satisfied, right to loyal because of how we dealt with the problem, with compassion. So much so that night at dinner, she said to her husband, at Kwik Trip, they did me right. I brought the bad milk back. They gave me 2 half gallons for free and a $10 gift card for my troubles. And her husband said, why did you take it to Kwik Trip? It wasn't their milk. That was from the grocery store. They don't sell Kemp's at Kwik Trip. They have their own private label. He said, are you serious? He said, yeah. To her defense, she came back the next day to apologize. She found the store leader and she said, ma'am, I was very upset with you yesterday about the bad milk. You treated me with a great deal of compassion. You gave me 2 half gallons for free and this $10 gift card. And my husband told me it wasn't your milk. And the store leader said, yeah, I knew it wasn't our milk. I saw on the label that it wasn't ours. And the guest was perplexed and said, well, I don't get it. Why didn't you say to me, sorry, lady, not my problem. Take it to where you bought it. And our store leader said, right on cue, right out of our training manual, when we talk about compassion with our guests, quote, ma'am, the goal is not to win the argument. The goal is to win your loyalty. The goal is not to win the argument. The goal is to win your loyalty. Now, you've probably heard the adage that the customer is always right. How many of you have ever heard that or even taught it? The customer is always right. We have 11 million customers a week. It ain't true. Sometimes the real issue is not anything we did and not bad product, but not bad service. The real issue is the customer. Sometimes the customer's wrong, as she was in this case. But the goal is, how do you treat wrong customers with compassion to win their loyalty? Because we could have won the argument. We would have done her won her loyalty, and we wouldn't have been treating her with compassion. Now, here's where it perfectly makes sense. That woman is going to tell this story on average 12 times. Now, this is an average. It doesn't break out this neatly all the time. 6 of those people now start shopping with Kwik Trip after they hear the story. Another 6 who had been satisfied guests with us at Kwik Trip become loyal guests. And we've done the studies. A loyal guest spends twice as much in our store as a satisfied guest. They're the people that said, I've never bought bananas anyplace other than a Kwik Trip the last 10 years, They're on sale, by the way, for 29 cents a pound right now as we speak. Why can we do that? Because we have our own banana ripening facility in La Crosse. We ripen 13 semi-loads of bananas a week and distribute to you as fresh as we can get them. Well, when you put those 12 people together, that will generate for that store in 1 year, get this, $43,200 in sales. So those of you who have ever studied marketing, would you spend $15? Again, 2 half gallons of milk, $5, $10 gift card. Would you spend $15 for $43,000 in sales? It's a marketing no-brainer. So when you treat people with compassion, even when they're wrong, everybody wins. Let me give you the second example of compassion in our stores. And this has nothing to do with increased profitability. It has nothing to do with increased sales. It has everything to do with creating a culture, not just in the store, but in the community, of compassion. For those of you who shop our stores, you come to the register, I will say a couple things to you. Hey, Glazers are on sale today. You want a 6-pack of Glazers? Does anybody know what's the last thing we usually say to you at the transaction, at the register? See you next time. Yeah, I hear some of you say, see you next time, see you tomorrow, stop back again. It's called the return comment. We train for it, we evaluate for it. It's nothing to do with increased sales, but everything to do with creating a culture of compassion. We're trying to recreate something. If you've ever studied psychology and you studied a guy by the name of Maslow, and Maslow has this thing called the hierarchy of needs. And one of the needs we all have in the middle of his pyramid is the need to belong. We just have this instinctive need as human beings. We want to know that there's some places where we can go where we're always welcome, where people will always welcome us, accept us. Stop back again. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Here's how we know it works. Some time ago, we had a 5-page letter from one of our guests in Antigo, Wisconsin. And you could tell by the handwriting it was elderly guy. His first paragraph said this: I love your store in Antigo. I love the no-fee ATM. I love the price of the bananas. Coworkers are always friendly. And then he went off for 4.5 pages on religion, on politics, on conspiracy theories. And the last line of the letter was, and I have other things to say to you, call me, with his phone number. We're privately owned by the Zietlow family in La Crosse, and Don Zietlow, our CEO and owner, reads every single guest letter first. Every single letter first. And then he distributes the letter to whoever might need to deal with the issue. So that morning, Don came to my office and he said to me, hey, John, can you do me a favor? Could you call this guy back? Well, after I read the letter, I thought I better wait till I have an hour on my calendar, because once I get this guy on the phone, this is not going to be a short conversation, So I called him later that morning. I said, sir, my name is John McHugh. I'm the Director of Public Relations for Kwik Trip, and I want to thank you for the very nice letter, and I understand that there's some more things that you'd like to say. And he goes off for 47 minutes, nonstop. I mean, I don't say a word. And I know it was 47 minutes because I got the timer on my phone, And he goes off on religion, on politics, on who really shot JFK, and how there's a connection to Antigo, Wisconsin, and he believes it, okay? Well, finally, the conversation's winding down, and I said, sir, anything else? Oh, yeah, one more thing. I was in your store 2 days before Christmas. I bought a banana and a pint of milk. And when I paid for it at the register, the young lady said, stop back again. I like that. And I said, well, sir, I'm glad you like it. It's called the return comment at Kwik Trip. We train for it. We evaluate for it. And he got upset with me. He said, you're not listening to what I'm saying. She meant it. And I said, I hope she meant it. I don't want any of our coworkers saying like they're robots. And he got even testier with me. He said, sir, you're not listening to what I'm saying. That young lady said I was always welcome in that store. And I could tell he was getting emotional. So I stopped. And I said, sir, is there more to the story? He said, yeah. He said it was 2 days before Christmas. And we get the kids and the grandkids together a couple days before the actual holiday. It's just easier than the day of Christmas. And he said, sometimes when I'm with my family, I have this tendency to go off on religion and politics. And yeah, you probably do, He said, so that night I went off on my tangents like I always do. And when I was leaving, my daughter came up to me and said, Dad, when you come here for Christmas with us and you go off on your tangents, it's not fun to have you with us. So he said, I left my family on Christmas knowing I wasn't always welcome. I walked into your store and all I bought was a banana and a pint of milk. And that young lady said I was always welcome in that store. It's good to know that there's some places where you can go for Christmas where you're always welcome. Click. Well, I found out through our video system, because I have access to all of our stores, who the young coworker was. And so I called her and I said, hey, did you know that that's what was going on in his life when you said stop back again? She said, John, I didn't have a clue. But I say it like I always do. I mean it. For us with 11 million guests a week, we have no idea what's happened in their personal lives before they came to shop with us. We have no idea what's happened to them at work that day before they came to shop at Kwik Trip that night. And we want to hope that at least one point in time in a 24-hour period, they have another human being look at them and say, you know what? It's good to see you. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Stop back again. Has nothing to do with increased sales, but everything to do with creating cultures of compassion in our communities. So internally at Kwik Trip, we believe that sense of purpose and that compassion, when you combine those two, that generates a great workplace, a top workplace. As many of you know, we're always ranked in one of the top 5 companies to work for here in the state of Wisconsin. Nationally, right now, Forbes has listed us in the top 80 of all companies to work for in the entire United States. A gas station, can you imagine? And our thing is, if we can teach our people to find purpose selling gasoline and hot dogs, all of our businesses can. Now, one last piece that we're also extremely grateful for, what makes us a great place to work is, as many of you know, we're family owned, the Zietlow family. 40% of all the pre-tax profits come back to all of us coworkers. And you say, well, that's not so great. That means Zitlow's getting 60%. Actually, not true. You're all business people. You know this. 27.5% of our profits go to Uncle Sam to pay tax. We're an S Corp. We're not a C Corp, so we didn't get the tax break that many companies did 5 years ago. 27.5% of our profits go to capital expenditures, and that's what's building the 50 new stores a year that we're building. It takes all 3 months to build. And then if you're a math wizard, you know that there's only 5% left. And that what goes back to the Zietlow family. And that's all 4 generations. First generation, second generation, third generation, and fourth generation. The family that owns us takes almost no profits out of the company. It all comes back to all of us. So all of us last year, full-time, part-time, didn't matter what position it was, making the donut, delivering the donut, selling the donut. All of us got a 12% cash bonus. And all of us got 5.5% in our 401k, even if we didn't put a dime into it. We have college students who have a retirement plan started from. They don't even realize they have a retirement plan yet. The family that owns us is incredibly generous. And it comes from Don's philosophy where he says, I don't make the donut as the CEO. I don't deliver the donut. And I don't sell the donut. I shouldn't get the profits. The profits should go to the people that actually do the work. So that when you shop for a Kwik Trip and you want to know where do the profits go, well, it's going to your neighbor that's working the register, or maybe your grandmother that's the food product demonstrator giving the samples. Profits comes back to all of us. That purpose, that compassion, that generosity internally is what makes us a great place to work. So, thanks for your time. I'll open up for a few questions if we have a couple minutes here.
Not a plant.
Okay.
So I'm making because we've never met before, but I want to say something you did not talk about today. Just over 10 years ago, I met with Steve Lowry, who was your senior vice president in La Crosse. I was joined by a fellow board member of Fisher House, Wisconsin, and we were trying to raise funds to build Wisconsin's first Fisher House. We walked out of there with quite a significant gift.
$100,000.
That's correct. Now, it may have been because I was joined by a gentleman at the time who you sell a lot of his product with the last name of Leinenkugel. He was joining me for that meeting. But I don't think that was the reason why. It was because you were giving back to the community and my fellow veterans. So thank you for doing that as well.
You bet, Dan. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Dan, I know the amount because I'm the one that helps administer all those pieces. So, yeah. And this we don't publicize this, but again, the family that owns us gives back literally millions and millions of dollars every year, but they will never broadcast it because they firmly believe in their core value of humility. They believe you should do it because it's the right thing to do, not because it's good PR. So, for example, internally we never publicize that. Externally, we don't. If you do, we're fine with it, but yeah, we never mention ourselves. It's the humility value of that family. Yeah. Tom.
Here's a question the crowd will love.
Okay.
Since you lived in Italy, you speak Italian. What's your favorite Milwaukee area Italian restaurant?
Oh, that's a good. Yeah, okay. I'm going to confess to this. It's actually not an Italian one. It's the German one. Yeah. So, but I don't want to insult anybody that's not from there. So I'll hold off on that one until it's not recorded. Yeah. Allora, ma possiamo parlare in italiano adesso, eh? Are you able to speak Italian? Nessuno? Okay.
I have a business question for you. What
Sure, Steve.
percentage of your customers don't just pump gas at the pump and leave versus going into the store and actually buying something else?
Yeah, Steve, the question is what percentage of our customers will just pump gas and then leave versus come in? It varies from market to market, and it varies from time of day to time of day. Overall, generally, with 820 stores, there is only about 20% of our customers who will only buy gas. 80% will actually come into the store. Now, that varies. So, for example, in some of our afternoon slots, especially in our small rural communities, you'll come in and we have a lot of our elderly guests who come in for the basic commodities: eggs, milk, bread, butter. And there it's almost 100%. They'll come in, and that's the reason why they come there. Part of our business model is our goal is that you'll do your major grocery shopping every 2 weeks. But in between that major stop to a big box retailer, you're going to run out of your basic commodities, things you can't keep fresh for 2 weeks. Bananas, milk, eggs, whatever. And then our hope would be ours is your destination. In our small rural communities where there used to be a neighborhood grocery store that no longer has a neighborhood grocery store, we've de facto become that grocery store. So a lot of our elderly people in the afternoon don't want to drive 30 miles to the next town that has a Walmart, or Costco, so they'll shop at Kwik Trip. So it really varies on the time of day. In the morning slot, we still get a lot of people who still come in for their cup of coffee and their breakfast sandwich and whatever. When people are traveling for vacation, we almost always get them inside. But sometimes when people are incredibly busy, they'll just stop and get the gas and go. Now, that's going to be an important piece for us because at some point in time when we get more EVs, electric vehicles, the question is going to become, well, you're going to have no reason to shop at a Kwik Trip because you're not going to charge at Kwik Trip. You're going to charge in your own garage overnight. So that's why already 20-some years ago, we started getting into this business model of having some reason why you would come into a Kwik Trip apart from just getting gas. And so that's why, again, we have the 140-acre campus that's doing all the production facilities of all those products. And we can sell them at 10% cheaper than Walmart because there's no middleman. We're not buying the milk from somebody else. We're not buying the sandwiches from somebody else, so we can pass those savings along to you. So that's been our business model so that when we get to everybody's charging at home, there's still a reason to come inside the store. Yeah, thanks.
You perfect segue. My question is, a Kwik Trip loyalist and an electric vehicle owner, we still do have a gas guzzler pickup that we use at Kwik Trip. We fill at Kwik Trip. What percent of your revenue is gas, and what percent is the rest of the things that we'll continue to have Kwik Trip to go to and celebrate?
Yeah, and Dan, correct me if I'm wrong in terms of your question, but in terms of the EV piece specifically, yeah. Right now, the catch here in Wisconsin, as many of you know, as a convenience store, we cannot sell electricity. And you have to be an energy co-op to be able to do that. So that's why you won't see electric charging stations of any substance right now at a Kwik Trip in Wisconsin. We have a few in Iowa. When that does become legal, you will see Kwik Trip putting in EV stations along the interstate system primarily. For people who are traveling or long distance, those kinds of things, especially for your people who have the range anxiety. You won't see it in our small, what we call our neighborhood stores, because our assumption is that people are going to charge at home. There's no reason to have to do that at Kwik Trip. So once it becomes legal here in Wisconsin, you'll see some more along our interstate system. That's our plan.
Hi. Could you tell me a little bit about your decision to put Bitcoin machines in your stores and how you're feeling about that?
Yeah, the question is,
Crash?
is what's the thought process behind the Bitcoins in our stores? It dovetails along the whole philosophy of giving people access to their money. Many of you know we have ATMs and no-fee ATMs. I'll talk about that in a second. So a lot of times we are an early adopter to a technology or a service that sometimes doesn't always pan out. For those of you who know, we started rolling these out in March, and about 2 weeks after we rolled them out, you know what happened to that whole area. Down it went. It's really designed for people who are unbanked. People that don't have access to the money in which those of us who have banks do. So much like many of you might remember in the old days when we used to send MoneyGrams or that kind of situation, it's designed for that. There's a lot of markets in which those machines haven't been used at all yet. It could come a time in which we say, yeah, maybe it really wasn't worth it, we'll roll them out. But we always tend to be an early adopter of something, and with this idea that it might work, and if it doesn't work, there's really no skin off our back because we're not paying anything for the machines. We're getting a little bit of rent from the company that does it. We don't have to manage the machine, so it was kind of an easy trial. So we'll see. The jury's still up, but again, the fact that 2 weeks after we started installing them, you know what happened to the area, so we'll see what happens.
Good afternoon. Who sets the price for the gas periodically? The stations or the company as a whole or by the state?
Yeah, John, good question. The basic price is set at the terminal where we pick it up. We actually use 31 different terminals in our 4-state market, and then the company helps determine some of that. The goal is to make a certain percentage of that, obviously, in profit. People often wonder, geez, is it profitable? It really, there's sometimes which it's not profitable at all. What hurts us right now when gas prices go so high is a majority of our customers use credit cards, and you have to pay a credit card fee based off the overall transaction. So when you're paying $5 a gallon for gas, what happens to our credit card fees? So, for example, there's a stretch this year in which we're paying more credit card fees than we actually make in profit on product. I mean, that's just the reality. Our sweet spot, in all honesty, is about $2.50 a gallon. That's when that credit card fee and that whole piece kind of levels out for us. So internally as a company, we cringe when it goes past $2.50. The other factor is that when it goes that high in terms of fuel prices, then customers are less inclined to come into the store and spend money and buy that six-pack of Glazers and the stuff where we do make money. If you want to know how profitable that the fuel business is, there's a reason why we spend millions and millions of dollars building production facilities back in La Crosse to make donuts and bread and sandwiches and everything else on the side. Because our hope is that that's where you come in. And that's where we have most control. We don't have much control as a small regional player over the price of gasoline. I mean, that's dictated by players much larger than us. So and that's why we're into the inside business so much, is to try to alleviate some of those pieces. Yep.
Well, we're not gas customers because we're Costco members across the street, but we are there every Saturday and Sunday, sometimes both days, getting breakfast sandwiches and your apple fritters, which are so fresh. Come home and put a little more cinnamon on them and heat them up a little more, and they're fantastic. I don't know how you get your bakery so fresh. And the sandwiches, the breakfast sandwiches, are better. They're obviously not made there. They're reconstituted, but they are as fresh as anything you buy from McDonald's or anybody else who's making it on site. How do you do that?
Tom, actually, all the sandwiches are made at the store. They're not pre-assembled or anything, and they don't come out of a package. They're actually all made and serviced at the store. For example, I like our fresh fried chicken program. That's all fried right at the store. That doesn't come from any place else. The dairy products, again, all fresh every day. The bakery products as well, made fresh in La Crosse and distributed right away to the store. For example, like the Glazer donuts are only good for 24 hours. So as soon as they come off the production line, they get sent to the store. And then after 24 hours, they get pitched. However, if you have some at home after 24 hours, the microwave for 11 seconds. It'll bring it right back to freshness. So, yeah, so actually most of the things that you experience in our store are made fresh internally. You bet. Yep. That's key for us.
John, a few months ago, the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel did a feature story on Kwik Trip Susie, a de facto brand ambassador for Kwik Trip. And it looked like she wasn't paid or anything, but she just was so all about Kwik Trip that she just went out and did this and engaged in social media, et cetera. So tell me about that. Just what would inspire somebody to do that?
Yeah, we call her our KT girl. She actually started just on her own. And some of you who are members of our loyalty card, at the end of every year, you get the report of how many Kwik Trip stores you had visited that year. Well, she was part of that, and she actually works as the lacrosse coach for La Crosse in La Crosse. That's her full-time. She said she only visited like 70 stores out of 820. And she's like, I'm going to visit them all in Wisconsin. So she just took it upon herself. Well, during the course of the year, we found out about it. And eventually, she's now semi-hired for us as a brand ambassador. So, for example, any of you that were with the Flutog experience, she was the one actually driving the banana truck off the ramp kind of thing. So, yeah, so she is now semi-works for us. Again, she keeps her full-time as a coach at UWL. But then from time to time, she'll do brand ambassador stuff for us. But, yeah, she just started on her own as kind of this challenge. So, yeah, for those of you who ever met her, personality is typical Kwik Trip. Friendly, bubbly, nonstop. So, thanks. Okay. Well, thank you for your time and attention. It was good to be with you today.